Hello, everybody. Welcome to Radio Dead Air Tech Q&A. You've got questions. We've got guesses. I'm Nash, been doing Radio Dead Air for ages and ages. In addition to that, I'm also an IT professional. With me, as always, my producer, Mike Gehrman, who also works in IT. If you have tech questions for us, send those to requests@radiodeadair.com. We'll try to put those on for you tonight. Let's see. Did I just lose a whole bunch of viewers or something glitchy happened? There was a glitch with the thing here. Bear with us tonight because I am running doing an experiment kind of thing tonight, in that we are I gotta switch this over to talk shows. Over here on the Twitch. I am simulcasting tonight. We are on YouTube and Twitch at the same time, which means I'm splitting my bandwidth.
See how well it goes.
It's so far today, it hasn't been terrible. It's been working pretty well. What this will help us enable to do is with this setup, I will have an automatic archive over on YouTube of Tech Q&A, that putting it up on the channel will be very simple. I'll just go in, snip, snap, edit it out, and put it up as video, and it's already done and ready to go, which is nice. We are still, if you want to help out, we are about 50 subscribers away from the threshold for advertising to be turned on. There it is in the channel. If you wouldn't mind following or subscribing or whichever it's called, click on the thing, click on all the buttons, and that will enable us to monetize this. Also, I need like 400 hours viewed. That'll come eventually. So yeah, here we are tonight. It's the way I'm doing this. This is not a built-in function of OBS. This is actually a plugin that allows you to do multiple outputs, multiple encoders at once. It's kind of it's hard to explain. I think it was doing is it's kind of taking the stream and making a virtual camera out of it and then shooting it through another encoder up to YouTube. Also, one of the nice things we're doing is we are encoding to AV1 on YouTube, which is the new standard for video encoding that's going forward in video coding streaming. The advantage there is you get a better overall picture quality at lower bandwidth. So we, eventually AV1 is what's going to enable much better 4K streaming as it gets refined and widespread, but that's not here. That's a ways off, and Twitch still has yet to enable it, although apparently it's in beta behind the scenes or something.
Good.
But YouTube is already making it available to folks, which is nice. So we've got a couple questions tonight. We'll get to those soon. Right now, we're going to look at some news, and oh boy. So if you haven't been following along in Texas, they've been passing some.
Everything's bigger in Texas, including stupidity.
They've been passing some very ridiculous laws. And
including this one, which is almost certainly unconstitutional.
Yeah. Texas is trying to force porn websites to invoke and they have to pay for it. It has to be on their end. It has to be there. Somehow come up with an infrastructure for this. Some kind of age verification system And they are entirely responsible for it. And the law doesn't really define how all that's going to work or how it's supposed to be set up. And Pornhub event just said, you know what? No, we're leaving.
No. And part of the reason this is because the Fifth Circuit Court, which is the court that makes the dumbest decisions in the U.S. I mean, consistently the dumbest decisions.
Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals
said that this law should follow rational basis standard, which is incorrect, and not strict scrutiny, which is the correct standard. Strict scrutiny has always been the standard for this sort of law. The strict scrutiny says, basically, is there any... I'm not even sure how to describe it really. Basically, it's the hardest level of constitutional scrutiny. And it's hard to pass. It's intentionally hard to pass. And the one dissent in the case, because there was only a panel of the Fifth Circuit, said, no, this should be strict scrutiny. And other jurisdictions have held that this sort of law should be strict scrutiny.
But the Fifth Circuit Court is, how should we put this gently? They're ideological. So this is going to have to go to the Supreme Court.
They got religious nutters in there.
The trouble with this going to the Supreme Court is we've got a messed up Supreme Court. We have no idea how they're going to rule on this. So this could become an even bigger mess than it already is.
Yes. However, previously I would have said, because the Supreme Court has unswervingly applied strict scrutiny, that this would also fall under strict scrutiny. But you can't tell with this Supreme Court anymore.
It's well, the problem here is Pornhub is not going to be putting into place its own adult verification stuff for the sake of the
blocking
state.
Texas.
Yeah, they're blocking Texas, which is one of the largest states in the U.S. with one of the largest populations.
So the real question here is, which Texas Republican legislator or judge is going to be the first to make the news for his personal computer getting infected with massive amounts of malware because he's had to go out and find spank material the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, one of the big problems with the law here, aside from, we'll get to the VPN part because obviously there's, but Pornhub, love them or hate them, and there's plenty of reasons to hate them because they are not the most ethical of companies. They, at least for the sake of their payment processors and advertisers, attempt to work within the framework of the law. They are the ones that play nice. Even though, like I said, there are tons of stories from the industry about how Pornhub is not. They're no friend to anybody. But they are actually the lesser evil here, because there are so many other sites out there that don't give a rip. They are based overseas or held elsewhere. They don't abide by anybody's laws. I don't even know how their ad servers work.
No.
They copyright is not a concern for them. Age verification is not a concern for them. They just do whatever, however, wherever. And that's the danger here, because I say danger, but these sites are, you have to be careful visiting them because crap only knows what might end up on your system.
Hence my previous comment about a Republican legislator getting malware on their system, because, I mean, let's face it, they're not going to be able to figure out VPNs.
No, they are not going to be able to. But yeah, the overall trouble here is we're going to have these less than reputable sites. They're just going to flow right into Texas, while the ones that could have corralled it and been legal partners at the very least will just wash their hands of it happily. And of course, the other thing there is this whole idea is easily defeated with a VPN. You simply get a VPN, set it to be in another part of the country where they don't have idiotic laws like this, and Pornhub will respond to your computer as if you're in that state.
Country, you could pretend you're in Canada.
Maybe pretend you're in Canada, pretend you're in the UK, whatever. And maybe not the UK. It's not. France. We come from France. There it is. But yeah, this is going to be, if you're NordVPN right now, you're happy because people are, the searches for how to VPN in Texas, actually, I saw someone gave a picture. It actually had a spike after this started happening.
So this is going to be a double entendre. All the wankers in Texas are looking for a VPN.
In America, the reason other countries are able to do this, like China, notoriously, is because they have structured their internet in such a way where on a national level, they can just shut you down. Yeah. But
they can just stop access. And they've done that. I want to say they shut something down this week. I forgot what it was,
but here in America, when it comes to state level governments, they don't have that authority. That's a federal thing. And that's not if the feds want to shut something down, they will.
And well, assuming they can do so constitutionally, although sometimes they will shut down temporarily, there'll be court cases, it'll be found out that they didn't have the constitutional authority to do so, and it'll be stood back up, unless, of course, the business has since gone bankrupt, which also has happened.
So it's
by the way, for those who are wondering what strict scrutiny is, which is the standard, again, this should be judged under, it is there has to be a compelling governmental interest, which they may or may not be able to convince a reasonable judiciary of, and they must have narrowly tailored the law to achieve that interest. They have to have made it as narrow as basically as possible, targeting just this thing. So if they pick up other stuff in there, if they say, oh, this stuff is, other sites come and say, we're being blocked by this, and we don't have this functionality, we don't have the things they're going after, that fails strict scrutiny.
So,
by the way, rational basis, which is the one, the panel, the Fifth Circuit, is actually the lowest level.
Yeah. We'll see how this goes. It's a mess, but for the most part, it's not really going to affect anybody except improve VPN sales. Because and that's the really annoying thing. I'm sure someone has tried to explain this to people like Ken Paxton, and they just don't care. This is an ideological stand. This is grandstanding.
He's actually trying to spin Pornhub blocking the state of Texas as him winning, rather than them proving a point and using it as evidence in the future court cases.
Yeah, they don't really need Texas, honestly. They around it very easily. All right, let's move on to some gaming stuff here. Rumors have slipped out regarding the PS5 Pro.
Yes.
This thing, if the rumors hold up, that is a very big if, big asterisk here. This thing looks like it's going to be 3 times as fast as the PS5.
Yeah. And remember a few weeks ago, we talked about how game consoles were price pointed at such a place that a low-end build is taken out by a console.
Yeah, because
if the price on this is good, I don't think we have a low-end build at the end of the year.
Yeah, that is the question here. What the price is going to be. What it looks like is this thing is going to be 3 times as fast as the original PS5. It's going to offer improved ray tracing support, super scaling, which their own custom version of super scaling involved to compete with image upscaling, to compete with DLSS and FSR. May well include scaling up to 8K resolution. Who the hell is an 8K television? So, and their target release date for November of this year.
Which makes it, of course, the perfect Christmas gift.
If this comes in at, that's the price is the crazy thing here, because the PS5 is what? It's down around $500 right now, right?
Yeah.
And that's a new one. That's not a used one. That's a new one. If this comes in around $700, that is.
Well, actually, I'm seeing some. I'll just say I'm seeing some PS5 bundles at $400.
If this comes in between $600 and $700, they're compared with the price of gaming video cards. Entry-level PC builds will just pretty much be over.
Yeah. Unless you're specifically looking for stuff that can't be played on a PS5.
Which, yeah, I mean, there are exclusives. There are Xbox exclusives. And there are Windows PC stuff that isn't available on the PS5. But the PS5 does have a pretty large catalog, a very popular catalog.
Yeah.
Now they could price this like closer to $1,000, but I doubt they're going to do that, because at $1,000 it would kind of be dead.
The only thing I would see at $1,000 for this was some sort of mega bundle with it.
Yeah,
like here's the PS5 Pro plus half a dozen or more games, because games are about $60 each these days.
So this. What the problem here is, and it's very frustrating, because AMD is the one who makes the chip for the PS5 Pro and the Xbox, and they're also making gaming video cards. And Nvidia is absolutely refusing to price anything reasonably. The only ones who are Intel, and that's because Intels are still very new and they have glitches. This is just removing entry-level PC gaming. And that's a big deal, because without entry-level PC gaming, well, that's like the bedrock of gaming, of PC gaming. Most people, if you look on Steam's hardware survey, most people are still using something like an RTX 3060. Some of them still have a 1060. We're not talking the high end of graphics cards. Those aren't the most popular. The $400 cards, the $500 cards, the most popular ones are $300 and under. And when you have something like this for $600 to $700, based on the initial release of the PS5, if you have something like this in that price point, compared to trying to build a gaming PC with a $300 graphics card, and this thing makes a $300 graphics card look stupid.
Yeah. I mean, if the specs hold out, I mean, it could be that this is off significantly, because, I mean, let's face it, they're saying this is going to be a 30 teraflop console.
Well, even if it's just let's say even if it's just half again as fast as the PS5, just half again,
making it a 15 teraflop console.
Even there, it's still fast. It's approaching the speed of a $400 graphics card.
Yeah. So as long as they don't price it stupidly, as we just mentioned, this should, it'll sell well. Mm. It will still, assuming they make enough of them between now and then.
Yeah, that's true.
Which has occasionally been a problem with Sony. and assuming that there's not some other issue that comes up, a week after release, where it's like, oh yeah, 10% of them catch on fire.
Well, the insistence of NVIDIA and AMD for selling their cards way above what the market will bear, stubbornly,
it's ridiculous.
And
I think that's where Intel is gonna eat their lunch, is the low end.
We'll see what they can come up with Battlemage. I hope Battlemage might be a big help in this regard. They've improved the drivers a lot, and if they can get something out for about $250, $250, $300 that actively puts pressure on at least AMD. Intel apparently right now just doesn't care, NVIDIA just doesn't care. So if that just like crumbles and falls apart, like if their AI stuff falls apart, they might go, oh no, but they're losing the plot, man. I don't know what the hell.
Everyone is banking on AI selling whatever cards they can get a hold of for the foreseeable future, and I think it's
already slowing down.
Yeah, it's gonna. I would say it's gonna crater like crypto, but crypto is coming back.
All right. So you may have
segs into our next story.
You may have seen the price of Bitcoin increasing. And that's not because anything really changed. No one's really using Bitcoin for actual purchases. The market for Bitcoin hasn't changed. What has changed, however, was recently the SEC okayed these financial instruments, and keep in mind, I'm very broadly paraphrasing because they make these deliberately obtuse on purpose. They allow you to invest in a piece of a company that uses Bitcoin. So you can invest in Bitcoin without actually investing in Bitcoin. What this is this just a new way to allow real money to be traded for fake money. And the SEC allowed this. So that's why Bitcoin took off again. There's an influx of new bag holders. That's why the value rose. They're trying to just squeeze as much as they can out of people. There is no there. So nothing has changed. However, because it started going off, then people irrationally are looking to get into other cryptocurrencies because they don't understand a damn thing about how this works. And there's a new one, or actually an old one using a new framework called Cubic. Yeah, QUBIC. It's different from Ethereum and Bitcoin, and it uses the AV512X. AVX512. I forget what it's one.
You're asking the wrong person.
It's the AVX512 instruction set built into CPUs. Intel has abandoned using AVX512, but AMD added it back to the new 7900, the AM5 CPUs. The result of that, of course, is now it's getting damn impossible to get your hands on an AM5 CPU, or at least a Ryzen 7000, because it can be used for this very specific kind of crypto, which is not like it's worth about 3,000 a coin, and it is viable because the 7000 series is so efficient power-wise. You can crank these down to 65 watts and still get a reasonable hash rate for mining the cryptocurrency. So the result is the higher end AMD CPUs are now there's a run on them, that they're low in stock. The 7900s are starting to go out of stock as well. And this is it's another bubble, and it's Like, because this is like you can make $3 a day doing this, which if you try to think how long it would take to pay that off.
Yeah.
So if you were looking to upgrade your AM4 system to AM5, nope. Because somebody else has decided.
Maybe at the end of the year.
Somebody else
Not right now.
decided to do some make-believe money crap that is useless for anything reasonable. This serves no purpose except to waste electricity and part suckers from their money. It's so frustrating. I cannot express to you how irritating as hell it is to see stuff like this constantly happen. It's like watching people buy a car just to run a treadmill for Christmas lights. You know? It's like, what are you doing?
If you could train your dog that's overweight to run on the treadmill and power Christmas lights instead of to a musical track, you've got a YouTube video.
I just
saying.
So if you were wondering why they're having a run on them right now, this is why.
Why they are stupidly high priced, if you can find them.
Yeah. So there is that. Yay. All right. Well, let's actually move on to stuff we can help you with. You got tech questions.
There's one other news story I'd like to mention briefly. It's a bit outside our wheelhouse. I just want to mention. Scientists this week revealed that they've come up with an addition to fuel cells to make them more efficient.
Yeah.
And that's by adding caffeine to them. I told you all.
So yeah, apparently they've made fuel cells more efficient by adding coffee, essentially, more or less. That's weird. Okay, let's look at the questions y'all sent. We got another one came in on, so we got 3. Another one came in while we were.
Well, let's acknowledge that one of our questions doesn't have a good answer.
Yeah. All right. Hi, Nash and Mike. My laptop has started acting up and I don't know what to do about it. Sometimes when I'm trying to play a game, the sound will freeze up with this annoying buzzing noise for a few seconds before the entire thing reboots itself. Many of us have experienced this. It's totally at random and I can't do it on command. I updated drivers and that didn't work. So then I took it as far as reinstalling Windows from scratch. That didn't seem to make a difference. Can this be fixed or am I looking at a new laptop? Thanks so much, Chris in LA. I don't know if that's Louisiana or Los Angeles. Well, either way. All right. The system freezing. I've experienced this with the system freezing up, and you'll have a sound will start getting played, and it'll just get stuck at that last note, like, and the whole system will shut down. The fact that you did a full reinstall of Windows and it's still behaving like this, Chris,
tells me hardware.
That's not a good sign. Yeah. When you're doing troubleshooting on a system, you try to remove variables. And one of the big variables is Windows itself, because at a certain point, if the wrong things get installed, the wrong things get configured, you have a Windows installation for a long time, that leaves room for something to get misconfigured and cause what looks like hardware errors, but there's actually a software conflict nonsense under the surface. By putting a fresh install of Windows in place, you eliminate that variable.
Unfortunately, that means it's hardware-based, which is, in some cases, a lot harder to track down because this could be any number of components failing.
Yeah, with a laptop, it's even harder because you can't pull pieces off until you find the right one. Most of the time, most things are all built into the motherboard, and they used to have daughter boards. They used to have socketed CPUs. Not no more.
No, it used to be the exception on the laptop was all the components soldered into place, and you couldn't take any of them out or replace any of them. Now that's 100% standard.
The only chance
98% standard.
The only chance you have to get around this being a hardware issue, in terms of replacing the laptop, is if you're somehow lucky enough that this is a hard drive failure. Like there's something wrong with your drive. What I'd recommend doing, because you say it happens during gaming, try to run some, whoever makes your drive or the laptop itself, try to find a diagnostic utility for the drive. A way to identify what hard drive you're using is a free program called Hardware Info. It will let you know what everything on your system is, and you will be able to determine who made your hard drive. Once you have that, you can go to their website. Most sites like Western Digital's, the Seagate, all the rest of them, they have some sort of utilities for their drives. You can run their diagnostic utility on it, and maybe this is a hard drive error, which would cause this exact problem. A lot of things, strangely enough, a lot of things cause this exact same symptom of the system just blah. I know some of you watching right now have experienced this symptom with your system. You've had the system go, it just that one note just sticks and your whole system reboots.
I had it happen on a system we were trying to overclock more than it probably should have been. And, we turned it down some, and hey, it stopped doing that. Probably not the case with your laptop.
I mean, other thing you can do here is it potentially could be an overheating issue because it is a laptop. This would be a good time to clean it out, get some compressed air, blast the fans out. Make sure, important thing to note when you're cleaning the fans in a laptop, you have to have some way to stop the fans from turning. You don't want to do that because when you blow a computer fan with compressed air and turns without power on, you actually run the risk of damaging the fan that way. You need to just stop the fan from moving so you can blow the air through there and get out any dust, any crap. It could be an overheating issue. That's another one where you could get lucky here. But otherwise, this does sound like hardware. So if cleaning out the air, making sure it's got decent cooling and ventilation.
I say, depending on the model laptop, you might be able to take the back panels off and clean additional dust and stuff out that way as well. Yeah. And also might give you a better access on the fan, so you can put a block in there, blast it with some air, manually spin it 90 degrees, blast it with some more air, so you can get all the parts there. Yeah. And this actually can, if it is an overheat issue, make a significant difference. I've had coworkers that brought some in, and I questioned whether or not they were using their laptops in their kitchens, and did they cook a lot with flour from the amount of crap that came out of these laptops.
Either way, Chris, try it, get back in touch with us, and we could maybe give you some more info, maybe if you're looking to get a replacement, but not in a great situation. This definitely sounds like whatever's causing it is hardware related. So by reinstalling Windows, you eliminated the software, in my mind, from being the variable here. So, all right, next one is from Weston. Hi, Nash and Mike and Cats. I have a weird one for you. I have an old piece of Firewire hardware I want to use for music production. Now, for those of you who don't know all the connectors for computers, Firewire was a protocol that was championed primarily by Apple early on in the USB cycle. It was it wasn't exactly USB, but it's sort of somewhere between USB and SCSI. And Apple made sure early on that it was proprietary. If you wanted to use that, you had to pay them a royalty. And because the whole point of USB is it's open, anybody can make use of the standard. And Apple doesn't like those. It has never liked those. That's where Thunderbolt came from. That's where Lightning came from. All of these standards that Apple likes to have a tight control on so that they can, force you to license their stuff. Firewire was used a lot for audio and video applications because it had a very high bandwidth compared to USB at the time. And it was fairly plug and play as opposed to something like SCSI, which is not. If you've ever tried to use SCSI, it's, well, I don't know how SCSI's improved in the years since, but I do know at the time SCSI was let's see, it's an M Audio Profire 2626, and there are Windows 7 drivers for it, but I don't know if those will work with Windows 11. I also know what kind of Firewire card I'll need to make it work. It's a really nice piece of hardware I was gifted, and I'd like to use it. Is there anything I need to know that would help? Thank you both, Weston. Okay. Well, you are going to need some sort of Firewire interface card to make this work. The trouble is, I don't know if anyone even still makes those these days.
That's a good question. I don't either. I mean, it's not something I've ever had to support.
I used Firewire briefly early on when I was making videos because it was the only thing my camcorder had a Firewire out, and I had Firewire built in through my sound card. Creative Labs often included a Firewire connection because people used it for audio stuff.
Now, I will say on the driver side, there are actually drivers up through Windows 8, but they might be the same as the Windows 7 drivers. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, there are still, well, okay, this might be throwing you off. Firewire has another name. It's 1394A. That's the same thing as Firewire. It's just not the flashy name for it. So there are still Firewire cards, PCIe cards that you can buy right now today. They're not expensive. They're like $35. Some of them even down to like $20. As far as compatibility goes, you're not going to have to worry too much about the card itself. Firewire was designed, like I said, to be a kind of a USB, a kind of a plug and play. You just plug it in, the system recognizes it. So that's not going to be a problem. What may be an issue is the drivers with Windows 11 or even Windows 10. Sometimes older versions of drivers for Windows work with no problem because essentially from Windows Vista to Windows 11, under the hood, much of Windows has remained the same to the point that drivers will still function. Mostly. Sometimes you will get a weird driver that tries to call for something that's been depreciated or just doesn't work the right way. DirectX has made this a lot of backwards compatibility that drivers can reference. So it's kept a pretty good stretch where older drivers can still work with new stuff. It's not 100%, but a lot of time it does. The good news here, Weston, is that you're working with audio. And audio has a gigantic loophole when it comes to drivers. ISO, AISO drivers.
Yep.
These are drivers that just about every audio device can fall back to. They are universal. They work with every dang thing. If there are AISO drivers available for your device, then the thing will work. It will flip and work.
ASIO drivers, rather.
ASIO, that's right. Sorry. ASIO. I've never had to say it out loud. I just had to look at it and read it. Those exist for dang near everything.
You may have to search.
You may have to search, but I'm going to say if you can get a Firewire card, there is, oh yeah, and that rare too, that's true. If you can get a Firewire card, there is a good chance you'll be able to get it to work with Windows. And Raritor brings up the other point. Linux supports everything, and the backwards compatibility on Linux is insane. So if you're really in a bind and you want to use this, you might just be able to boot into Linux, work it with no trouble. I think you've got some options here, even if it is an older piece of hardware. It doesn't seem to be that old. I mean, Windows 7, Windows 8. Yeah, it's about that's about 10 years old now, isn't it? Oof. But there is enough legacy stuff still supported that you're in good shape. You won't know until you try it, but putting a Firewire card in your system won't be that difficult. It is essentially plug it. You shut off your system, find an empty port, plug the card in, turn it back on. Windows will say, hey, here's a Firewire interface. Yay! And you should just be able to plug something into it, and the system should read from it. So yeah, you shouldn't have as big of a problem, just as long as you get a Firewire interface in there. Is there a US? Let me double check.
USB to Firewire?
Yeah.
There are dongles, yes.
I would be leery of those simply because
they don't always work.
Yeah.
Some of them pass along part of the signal. Some of them just do. Oh no, we're just here for power. But you have to read through the spec of the listing to go, oh, this is just power.
Yeah. You can do an adapter, but with considering how cheap a Firewire card is, there's really no point in it. So yeah, that's the best thing I can tell you. You're probably in good shape, and a Firewire card is so inexpensive that it's worth the risk, honestly. So good luck with it. Last one comes from Diego. What the hell, bro? Hello, Nash, Mike, and assorted floofs. So I've been getting shocked on the metallic frame of my desk every time I sit there when I get home. Should I wrap a cable around it and connect it to the center ground line on my surge protector? Or is that how I end up flying through a wall? Hey.
No, you shouldn't fly through the wall with that.
No. I assume what you're talking about is static electricity.
And if it's not static electricity, someone is playing a great practical joke on you.
Yeah, if it's not static electricity, then you've got a wiring fault, and that's bad. That's very bad. But I assume that your carpet or something you're rubbing along, you touch it and you get a shock. Well, honestly, the grounding problem here is not the desk. It's you.
Yeah.
Because
honestly, the easiest way to solve this is to check the humidity in your house and adjust it
a little bit. You'd have to, you are the thing. The desk is not what's generating and building up the static electricity, Diego. You are
picking up a charge, and when you touch the desk, it's discharging into the desk.
Because the desk itself, even if it's not like grounded to the wall, it still can function as a ground if it's a large enough hunk of metal. Yeah, it's not like a strict ground wire, but it's
at a lower potential than you are.
There you are. That is. You need to find some way to discharge yourself. Like, it's weird. Like, wearing a static discharge bracelet will help with this, but you have to be wearing it while you're building up the charge to prevent that from happening. And that means you have to be stuck by a wire to something. So yeah, if you wire the desk to the ground, it's going to have the exact same effect because you're still going to be touching it. You're still going to be discharging the static electricity you built up before you touched your desk. So what Mike says is true. You add a little bit of humidity and makes a vast difference. When we were living in Illinois, me and Grady, it's a lot less humid there, and he is super fluffy cat. He was constantly getting shocked by me. He was shocking himself. It was just tons of it.
Did he have the full on Van der Graaf
No,
floof going?
no, but he would like, when it's gotten colder outside and it hasn't been as humid around here. One of the community cats we're looking after, actually rubbed himself up against me and shocked himself, and then was pissed off and bit me.
He doesn't know any better.
It's like, why did you do that to me? I was like, I didn't. You did it. I didn't do it. I mean, he didn't bite me hard. He did like the little. Don't hit me like that. Nip that cats do. But adding a little bit of humidity to the area will offset that. Generally, it can. Static electricity builds up a lot easier in less humid climes. So like a mild humidifier you run for a little bit of time. But yeah,
it is quite often a seasonal thing. I mean, so I never have static electricity problems here in the summer because it doesn't really drop below 50% humidity at any point.
Now, grounding your desk is inadvisable for a number of reasons, but you're not going to shock yourself doing it. A ground line from your house, it's simply a connection that goes to a central, usually goes to a central trunk in your electricity setup. And that actually literally goes to the ground. So it's just a wire that runs essentially through your electrical system and ends up at like a copper pipe or something or spike that has been planted. It runs into the dirt, into the ground. That in itself is fairly innocuous. It's when you combine another like a live wire with it that becomes a problem, because then it discharges, It goes to lowest potential, and blah blah blah, bloom. Generally, it's just you shouldn't need to ground your desk.
In fact, that actually might make it worse,
because you'll definitely, it'll make it easier to discharge the static electricity. So try to discharge yourself before you touch it. A quick way, a way that does help, I've noticed, wash your hands real quick.
Yeah. Or if there's a convenient younger sibling, always a bonus. The ear is phenomenal for this.
But yeah, wash, just as simple as washing your hands will take care of it. Just as long as you don't build up another charge back on the way to shocking the thing.
Touch the cat before sitting at my desk. Got it. Thanks. Oh, yeah. Not where we were going with this, but yeah.
No, that hurts the cat. Don't do that. That's me. Because if you get a shock, the cat gets the same shock. It's not pleasant. Don't hurt the kitty. What is wrong with you? Don't do that. All right, let's see. I think that is everything for this week. Charlie, speaking of cats, what are you doing? Oh, you were looking for something to steal because he gets a klepto thrill. I swear to God, this cat gets a kleptomaniac thrill. He finds something that's on my desk that he will get attention from me because he takes it. And that's why he wants to take it.
Have you considered just putting a small pile of hairbands there and pretending to be upset that he takes them?
I might like decoy klepto stuff. That might not be a bad idea because he's a little.
It's like we say, set up a keyboard for your cat so your cat is not sitting on your keyboard. It goes, I have my own keyboard. There we go.
He's a little poop is what he is. You be good. I see that tail flying around. You're thinking about doing things. I know you. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us for this week. We'll be back next Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you've got tech questions for us, you can send those to request@radio.air.com. Or if you're watching this on the YouTube, you can put your questions in the comments. I can just find them there. So yeah, you can add them there.
I don't know that one will last, but you know.
So, otherwise, we'll be back next Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for being with us. Have yourselves a great week, and we'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.